So you've been working with Microsoft Loop for a bit. You've created a few pages, maybe even shared a component or two, but it still feels a little bit awkward, like you haven't quite figured out how to make it really work for you yet. That's totally normal. Loop doesn't exactly advertise its best features, but once you know where to click, everything starts to make a lot more sense. Over the past few years, I've helped millions of professionals get more out of Microsoft 365, cutting down on busy work and setting up smarter ways to manage their digital workspace. And Loop is one of those tools that really starts to shine once you unlock a few hidden tricks. So in this video, I'll walk you through 8 practical tips that go beyond the basics. And if you're ready to go even further to not just use Loop, but actually connect it with tools like Teams, Outlook, Planner, OneNote, and To Do, then definitely check out the link below. That's where you'll find my Microsoft 365 Productivity Masterclass. It's built for professionals who want to save time, reduce stress, and finally get meaningful work done without juggling 10 different apps. So if that sounds like you, the masterclass might be exactly what you need next. But for now, let's start with something crucial. Let's say you're in a meeting and jot down a quick checklist, or someone drops a table with key project updates on a Loop page. Instead of copying that content into a dozen places, you can turn it into a live, shareable component. That means you and your team can edit it from anywhere. Outlook, Teams, another Loop page, or OneNote. And it always stays up to date no matter where you paste it. Here's how to do it. Highlight the block you want to turn into a component. This could be a simple paragraph, a checklist, a table, or even just a heading. You'll see a small 6-dot handle appear on the left. Click on it and then choose Create Loop Component. You'll see a subtle purple-blue border appear around it, and that's how you know it's now a standalone Loop component. Now you can copy the link via the middle button in the top right corner of the component and paste it anywhere. In a Teams chat, an Outlook email, or another Loop page or another OneNote page. Anyone with access to the component and the respective location can edit it, and the changes will sync instantly across every place it's been shared. Now that you've shared a component, you'll want to make sure the right people can actually open and edit it. Loop makes this easy, but the option isn't very prominent. As you know, every Loop component has this small toolbar in the top right corner. We just used the middle icon to copy the component. The button on the far right shows a little person icon. That's the See Who Has Access button, and it's actually quite useful. Click it and a panel will open where you can check exactly who can view or edit the component. If you shared it with someone via Teams or Outlook, they'll usually show up automatically. And this is especially useful when you're sharing across different apps or teams and want to avoid the classic access denied message. Just a quick check here can save a lot of confusion later on. Tip number 3 helps in situations we've all been. When collaborating on pages, someone accidentally deletes half the content, overwrites a table, or rearranges a page in a way that just doesn't make sense anymore. And because Loop is so collaborative, it's not always clear who changed what or when. But thankfully, Loop automatically saves previous versions of your pages in the background, so you don't have to worry about losing important content. Here's how to access it. In the top right corner of any page, click on the 3-dot menu. Then choose Version History. A panel will slide out from the right showing a full list of saved versions, each with a timestamp and the name of the person who made changes. You can click on any version in the list, but unfortunately, Loop doesn't show a preview of what the page looked like. So if you want to see the content, you'll need to actually click Restore this version at the bottom. Just keep in mind that this will replace your current page with the older one. What I like to do in this case is make a quick copy of the current page first, just in case. Then I restore the older version to see how it compares. It's a bit of a workaround, but it gives you the flexibility to review older content without losing anything important. Either way, the key here is that you don't have to worry about losing past work. Loop keeps everything within reach, even if things go sideways. The next tip helps when you open a new page and have no idea where to start. Maybe you're about to plan a project, run a retrospective, or prepare meeting notes, but that blank screen just stares back at you. And that's where Loop's built-in templates come in. To use them, click plus New Page in the left sidebar. And at the bottom of the blank new page, you'll see some default templates. For example, one for project brief, team decision, project planning. If you click the link to the template gallery at the bottom of the panel, you'll find even more templates that you can browse and preview. When you find one that fits, just click Use Template and it will be applied to the page you've just created. And the nice thing is, these templates aren't locked. You can edit everything, rearrange sections, or add your own Loop components. That's what I often do. If I like just one part of a template, I'll keep that and remove the rest, or mix in my own paragraphs to make it work for what I need. The next tip is perfect when you've created a page layout you really like and want to reuse it without rebuilding everything from scratch. Instead of copy-pasting the same layout over and over, you can save your custom page as a reusable template. When you right-click and save as template, you'll be able to give it a name, choose an icon if you want, and even edit the template content before saving. Once you hit save, it'll show up in your template gallery and is available as an option every time you create a new page. This is great for recurring setups like weekly team check-ins, project trackers, or meeting notes, where the structure stays the same but the content changes. And just like with the built-in templates, your saved templates are fully editable. You can tweak them each time or keep them consistent. It's completely up to you. This next tip is for those moments when sharing just a small section isn't enough, and you want to bring over the entire page into another app or conversation. Of course, you can do that simply by sharing the link to an entire page by clicking the share button in the top right and copying the page link, or by right-clicking on the page in the page list and selecting Share Page Link. But that's not the beauty of Loop, in my opinion. Here, you're not limited to static links or individual blocks. You can turn a whole page into a live, editable component that stays in sync wherever you share it. Now, here's how it works. Go to the page you want to share and right-click on it in the page list on the left. Then select Share Loop Component. And this creates a live version of the full page that you can copy and paste into Teams, Outlook, OneNote, or another Loop page. And just like with smaller components, any edits made from those other locations will sync automatically back to the original. Now, before we jump into the next tip, take a second to sign up for my newsletter. It's linked right below. I send out practical tips each week to help you get more out of those tools like Loop, Teams, Outlook, and the rest of Microsoft 365. And when you sign up, you'll also get free access to a 7-day mini masterclass that shows you some of my favorite productivity tips. Now, if you're using Loop for meeting notes, project pages, or planning checklists, it's easy to lose track of follow-up actions unless you connect your tasks to Microsoft Planner and To Do. Luckily, Loop makes this really simple. Just type a / and task to insert a task list block to start creating action items. For each task, you can assign it to one or even more people, set a due date, assign it to a bucket, and mark it complete. All directly in Loop. When you create tasks in a Loop task list component and assign them to people, those tasks automatically sync with Microsoft Planner and To Do. Assigned tasks will appear in your Assigned to Me list in To Do and in the relevant plan in Planner, making it easy to track and manage them across Microsoft 365. You don't need to be in a workspace connected to a Microsoft 365 group for this to sync to work. Loop creates its own planner plan behind the scenes to support task syncing. However, if tasks are left unassigned, they won't show up in To-Do, and the Open in To-Do option will be disabled. In short, this means you can create and assign tasks directly during a meeting or conversation in Loop and still manage them using your regular task tools like Planner or To-Do. And this last tip is a small detail, but a surprisingly useful one when you're working with a team inside a shared Loop workspace. At the very top of the workspace, you'll see a Workspace Status button. If you click it, you'll be taken to a dedicated page that shows Workspace insights, open tasks, status labels, and team recaps. In theory, this can be a great way to get a quick snapshot of where things stand. But in practice, it can feel a bit limited, especially if the workspace is still new, there hasn't been much activity, or you're the only one contributing. In that cases, the status section might be mostly empty and display only the placeholders. But that's totally normal. Loop only starts surfacing meaningful status infos once there's enough collaboration and task activity for it to pull from. So don't worry if it looks a little bare at first. It becomes more helpful as your team starts actively working in that space. Now, as you've seen, Loop is full of features that are much easier and more impactful than they might seem at first. But if you're now realizing there's more to Loop than you thought, watch this video next. Whether you're just getting started or think you already know the basics, it'll give you a clear, structured walkthrough of how Loop actually works and how to use it with confidence.